What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Bearded Captain Productions. We are continuing my look at some of the video games that I have played, loved, or general interest in this case, through the years. But today is a very special one as I have a guest. My good buddy Luke really wanted to talk about this game, and he knows a lot more about it than I did because I did have Chronocross back in the day, but it wasn't one I dived deep into. So, Luke, say hi, introduce yourself to everybody, what you're all about.
Hi, my name is Luke. What's up, man? What's up, listeners? I like all geek stuff. I play music. I'm in a band called Three Miles from Providence, and
Yeah.
other than that, I kind of just I work and I hang out at comic shops and I talk to Sean. That's about that's what I do. So
You know what? That doesn't sound like a bad life to me at all.
I don't think it is at all. Yeah, I would agree.
Oh hell yeah! But okay, so as I said earlier, we are discussing Chronocross. This was released by SquareSoft back before the good old Square Enix merger. Released in Japan on November 18th of 1999. We didn't get it here in the states until August 15th of 2000. This was directed by Masato Kato, who also is a writer on this thing. And this is a spiritual successor to the Super Nintendo game Chrono Trigger. It's not tied in directly, other than I believe there's like a little Easter egg or something to it. But it is set in the same world. And this was
Yes, it's in the same world, definitely.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a big hit when it came out. Actually, a GameSpot, which I'm not sure that's a magazine or a website at the time, gave it a perfect 10. And yeah, for me, like I didn't stick with this game. I remember playing it a lot, pretty far in, but I didn't go too deep into it. But Luke, you were a big fan of this, so why don't you tell the audience, what you loved about it, what about the game? Give us your thoughts.
Well, first off, because it's this, as you said, the spiritual sequel to Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger was one of my most favorite games.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, I loved that you could do multiple endings on Chrono Trigger. I loved the time travel aspect of it. I mean, when that came out, I feel like that here in America, that was one of the first real like Japanese RPGs that we got here. I mean, that was like that good. It had the anime look to it. I mean, it was pixelated, but it but it had an anime look to it.
oh no,
And I
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and I remember I had a friend at school that was just like, you gotta play this. It's so good. I think it was like in junior high or something. He's like, you gotta
Okay.
play this. So anyway, but when I saw that they were doing something in the same world, on PlayStation, I was like, I gotta play that. So at the time, I actually didn't have a PlayStation. So story to go along with it, I borrowed a PlayStation from one of my brother's friends
Oh,
and I got it, and I played through like half the game when I first played it. So it was one of those like multi-disc games, for PlayStation. Like whenever you couldn't put everything on one disc, you had to. I think it
right.
was two discs for it. It's two discs. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it right now. It's
Right.
two
Yeah.
discs.
The those
It
CGI.
wasn't the,
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say yeah. Those CGI cutscenes were mostly the reason we had to have multi-disc games back on PS1.
Well, it did. What I was gonna say, it's not. It wasn't like a Final Fantasy 8 or 9 three-discer, but it was
Yeah.
a,
Right. Right.
it was a two-discer. And I played through like half the game, and the guy wanted to, he didn't want me to keep his PlayStation forever, so he got the PlayStation back, and I had like a memory card, and I was like, hey, I bought this memory card so I could keep it on there. I was like, just hold on to it because I'm gonna get my own PlayStation. And I was like, just, you can have the memory card, just keep it so I can transfer it over to
Right.
mine.
Right.
Well, he deleted it when I
Oh.
gave it to. So I mean, this is like it was one of those like hour-long games, So it's like,
Right.
and at this point, I'm like, I'm in school. I'm also working a little bit, like I'm mowing lawns and doing stuff like that. So that was kind of depressing that I had to start over. But I love the game, so the things that I like about the game. First off, the things I really like about the game now, instead of the time travel aspect that they had in Chrono Trigger, this was more of a multiverse aspect.
Right.
The storyline is the hero of the story is a kid named Serge,
Right.
and so you wake up and he's on an archipelago or an island or whatever, and he's got this girl that he likes, and so they're good friends, and they go out to the beach, and he passes out on the beach during like a storm, I think, if I remember correctly, uh, and so he wakes up and he's in a totally different world where he died 10 years ago. And
Oh,
so
that's right. Yeah, sorry. Like,
yeah,
yeah, the story is distant to me. So, yeah, okay.
yeah.
I'm remembering a little bit sad.
Uh, I really like the multiverse aspect, almost the what is the Christmas movie? The one where they're like every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's a Wonderful Life. It's a
Wonderful.
Wonderful Life.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of got that where like this is what would have happened if you had been here. This is what happens when you're here because that's so you get this whole multiverse aspect of it. The storyline is wonderful. Without giving too many spoilers and stuff, because I would encourage anybody to play this game that's really into JRPGs and stuff,
Right.
to definitely go out and play it. But the story is just amazing. It's got this whole thing of like almost nature versus nurture, fate, and how if fate can control your life or you get to make your own decisions.
Huh.
Um,
Okay.
and how your decisions or things that you do, affect one thing if you're there, if you're not. Um, one of so there's 45 characters that you can get in the game.
Yeah, I do
Um,
remember there being a huge like, and a lot of them, if not all of them, are optional, right? Like, there's not any you have to get, but it's like you can recruit a
uh,
ton, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you actually, it's got one of those new game plus features too. So after you
Ah,
beat the
right,
game, you can go back through because you can't get them all in one playthrough. There's no way to because you get a choice of taking some people, and if you take them in, it's like one of those things where the other people will leave. But if you already have them with you because you've already played through the game once, because there's multiverses, right? So
right,
so you
right.
can do that where you've made the choice in one and not the other. So I mean, the amount of characters is just insane. Now you can only use three at a time, which is standard for that time for a JRPG.
Right.
And they had really good characters on there. Even I can't. All of the characters had a really good story. You get an ending for them when you beat the game. As long as you had them with you. There was all kinds of like intricate things even for side characters like that you would
Hmm.
find out throughout the story, like about there's like one story I remember about two knights that were in love with the same girl and they hate each other throughout the game and you don't know why, and you find out later like the whole situation and everything that happened, which is really cool. And I know so the other like the aspect of the multiverse that I really liked about it was it kind of reminded me of the Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. How you had
Huh.
the light in the dark world. I would assume they
Right.
kind of ripped it off from that. But that was really really cool because Legend of Zelda is awesome. I know you like
Oh yeah.
I know you're really into puzzle games and stuff like that. So
Oh, for
uh,
sure.
and so all the dungeons and stuff that you could do on there, there's not as much of that aspect, but there is like the light in the dark world. I would say the light world would be the one where you're alive, and the dark world obviously is the one where Surge is dead.
Right.
But and then going into that and into the characters more, they ripped off Harley Quinn for a character on the game, and her name was Harl, I think is her name. Like
Right.
her name is Harlequin, but it was Harl was her name. Harl was her name.
Yeah.
If that's the way you pronounce it,
Yeah.
and
Harl
she was
or
French.
potentially Harley is their way without the
Yeah,
Y,
yeah.
but yeah, I
Well,
got you.
I've heard people pronounce it different, but it can be. I called her Harley back in the day. I
Right.
remember because I
Right.
remember Harley, but they ripped off Harley Quinn from Batman, and but this character is French, and it kind of like the way that Harley Quinn is in love with Batman,
Right.
or kind of has a little attraction to Batman. Harl or Harley has the same has the same thing for our hero Surge in the game too. So you've got that little thing going on. And then one very interesting aspect of the game that you really don't get to find out till you get into the game, and like I said, I don't want to spoil too much,
Right.
but you actually get to play as the villain or the antagonist, Link, for a part of the game.
Yeah. Okay.
Link's,
Yeah.
excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah. I did. Yeah. I do remember hearing a little bit about that. That's yeah. I know what like kind of multifaceted because at one point I believe like you don't even have Surge. He kind of like not necessarily takes a back seat, but like yeah, it focuses on a lot of different characters. But
yeah,
one thing I was gonna say, like, and I've got some slides going during all this. You can see is the absolute gorgeous backgrounds that SquareSoft was doing
definitely.
back in this day. Whether the polygons of the main characters hold up as well, I mean, they look better than seven, but and
Mhm.
maybe and a little bit better than eight in my opinion. But like the backgrounds are absolutely gorgeous. Like the art direction for this game is like the stellar,
Yeah.
and it still looks good even by I think today's standards. When you don't have to, fully rendered backgrounds, but they are the still ones. But with that, they were able to add so much detail. But one thing I wanted to get into because I remember not. This is the aspect of the game I think that turned me off because I'm not
Hmm.
the biggest fan of the combat sections having like a lot of gimmicks in combat
Hmm.
because like with a turn-based, especially like JRPGs, I'm in it for the story and for the characters. I know you're gonna have the random battles all throughout, and I don't mind having
Uh,
like character abilities. But with this one, with the colors, like changing the
all
field
the
as you did the
elements.
attacks, like that kind of turned me
Yeah.
off. But I assume because of how much you like this game, you really enjoyed that aspect. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the elemental aspect.
Yeah.
So there's I mean the way that you would, I mean, you say Pokemon or something like that, the way
Right.
grass is over, like, fire's over grass, grass is over water. It's kind of like that. There's like earth, there's fire, there's dark, there's light. And so what you can do is like the elements are like your magic for the game. So I mean, on pretty much I didn't really feel like it was overdone on this. It's different. I can say that. I mean, it was done more on this, but I didn't necessarily feel like it was overdone. You definitely had to have a strategy when you went in. So, uh, the way that you can buy like ether or something like that on another game,
Right.
to or to get your magic up and to get your magic power all the way back up, you could get individual elements. So you could have like an element for like fire or something, and the more that you built up your fire element or your fire power for your magic, then you can do all kinds of different fire attacks, and of course you can do combined attacks for each one. So if a
Ah,
couple of your
okay.
characters had, so it's, I mean, it's in basis, it's very much like a Final Fantasy turn-based, but then it had that extra aspect in there where you had to kind of strategize to make sure that if you knew, like there were times if you hadn't played the game before, when you do that second playthrough, obviously your characters are all powered up and you kind of know what to expect at that point. But if you're going into a battle, you don't always know that you're going to be going to get somebody that's dark or that somebody that's water or whatever.
Right.
So like you kind of had to make sure you had enough elements on there because you could switch those things in and out on you. You had a certain amount that you could put on there, and the further you get in the game, the more you can put on because that's part of you like building up your character. Um, but yeah, I actually enjoyed that part of the game because it was more strategy to me, I guess, than and it was to say that it was tough to get used to. I would say yes. I mean, because it was different than your. I mean, so you were talking about Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8. I mean, even Final Fantasy 9. I think we got all of those around within a 5 year span or something like that, five or
Right.
6 year span in there with Chronocross. And that was some of the best in a short amount of time that we had storytelling inside of games. I felt like. I mean, you also had your Metal Gear Solid that came out at first during that, which was
Yeah. Yeah.
really good too. And so all that storytelling and stuff. But back to Chrono Cross, because you're saying some stuff that you didn't like about it. One of the aspects that I didn't like about it was that it was really really tough. Like I always felt like on like a Final Fantasy game or on like a Zelda game, before you're going into a big boss battle or like you might be overpowered when you go in there, you at least kind of got a warning or you got a save spot or something. And this game, at least at the beginning of it, when you're not very powered up, is not real great about giving you those. And then,
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
then you can't. There's no way unless there's an updated. I think they've done like an updated, like maybe they've tried to redo the graphics a little bit or something, or update the graphics a little bit on PlayStation Store,
Oh,
like where
okay.
they tried to do. They might have. I'm not saying it's got HD remake, but I think there might have been something where
Yeah.
they updated it like in the early 2000s, like
Right.
2005 or 2006, like in Japan. So they put it on there. I think is something that I've heard, but it's really frustrating whenever like you get all the way through like a whole part where especially on these games where the enemies come up to you and then you have to fight them on the way too, if you didn't bring enough
Yeah.
potions or whatever, or you use all your potions before you get. I remember there's two characters and their names are Salt and Pepper, I think, on there, and
Okay.
they're like some guards that you kind of deal with throughout the game, and they're the first like people you really have to deal with on the game, enemies that you have to deal with on the game that you have to deal with elements with. And
Oh,
so and so you kind of fight through people this whole thing, and then you fight like a mini type boss. It's like a flying like monster eagle type thing, and you then you have to fight them afterwards. Well, I remember not having a clue that I needed elements or anything like that for them. So I get to them. Well, then there's like a long, like when they first come up, there's like a long. I don't want to say it's a cut scene because like a cut scene, it might be easier to watch. It's like one of those where it's not quite a cut scene, but it's got dialogue, so you have to keep pushing the A button or whatever, and you
Right.
can't switch past that. And I didn't get to save, so I died. I remember like 5 times or something, and had
Oh.
to restart on it because I had to figure out what elements to use, all that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah, and that's an aspect of the game I would probably like better now, because
yeah.
I have played different RPGs that have like I've gotten a little more used to it. I'm still like I still prefer more simpler combat with just like character abilities, but like I said, I played Pokemon since this, like, and
Yeah.
as you mentioned,
Yeah.
like we had all those Final Fantasies, the Lunar series, Wild Arms, all coming out around this time, and most of them
Yeah.
had like little tricks, of course, but like I don't remember dealing with one that had like this kind of a effect in the field to making sure you're using the right elements to keep the field enhanced to like you said. So
Mm.
it's one I honestly would really like, and I know they had on the PlayStation Store at one point. Like
Mm.
if they ever got this put onto the Switch, I would rebuy it. I would definitely replay it again, to kind of give it a fairer shot. 'Cause I think like from what I've seen and talking to you, as we were prepping for this video and everything, like yeah, like it's a game I regret not playing more back in the day. I do still have a physical copy of it, but I don't
Mm.
have a console. It's much easier just to grab my Switch when I'm sitting there on the couch, and can play these kind of games. So it's definitely one like I want to go back to, and obviously it's one that you definitely recommend people try check out even now, right?
Yeah, and I would, I mean, it's a for the time that it was, it's definitely like I said, not like now, you've got people playing Skyrim or whatever else,
Right.
and Elder Scrolls online, where you just keep
Hmm.
getting downloadable, DLC that you can just keep doing some Monster Hunter stuff like that.
Right.
But this just for like the game that it was, the 2 disc game, you can put a lot of time in it. I went back through it and I think finally got all the characters like I don't know back in 2012 or 2013.
Oh, nice.
I yeah I broke I broke one of my ankles and sprained the other one,
Oh.
and so yeah so I got out my old copy of it that I had, and it wasn't working right because it got dusty, I guess, or something. And so my wife got me a new copy of it, which was awesome.
Oh,
And
wow.
I played it on. You can play it on the PlayStation 2, because you could play the PS1
Right.
games on
Right.
PlayStation 2. I had to go get a memory card and all that stuff. But I played through the whole game like twice at that point, and got all of the characters and everything. And it was even then. I mean, I've played it here and there just to get back in, and like I'll start the story and I look stuff up on it because like for years they've been saying that they're gonna do a sequel to it,
Right.
for like probably like since 2008 or 2009, I think they said. And the last thing that was said about the sequel to it was the creator said that when they asked him about it, he said if people want more, they need to buy more. So I'm like, well, I mean, what do you, like, it's not in production
I was say
anymore. The
give
game
us
is not like
a
so. I mean, you'd have to, yeah,
I was gonna say, give us an HD remake, and we'll see if we, because between this and Chrono Trigger, we have even with this being more of a spiritual successor than an actual sequel, it's in the universe, it's in the Chrono name, and I know we've gotten like, was it Chrono Crusade or some other like little like kind of got the Chrono in the name but not connected at all. So, yeah, if he
yeah,
still
yeah.
feels that way, then they need to go ahead and put this game out more, give it a proper like not full on like 7 remake, but like an HD remaster, and put it available on
It would be
every
really
console.
good if they did. It would be really good if they did that and they did a Chrono Trigger one too.
Yeah,
I've got the Super Nintendo, the classic that they had to come out a couple years
right,
ago. I had a friend get it for me for my birthday, and
nice.
it's got that on there. I mean, it's got a lot
Yeah,
of other good games on there too, but it's got that on there. And I've played through it a little bit. Other really good games on there, Super Mario RPG, stuff like that. Like really some really good. It's got that Earthbound on there and
yeah,
stuff too.
yeah,
So I mean, but if they did a remake and they put both of those on one game, kind of like what they did with the Trials of Mana series,
right.
um, then I think that would be really cool.
Oh,
Because I
I'd
mean,
buy it.
those things are all sitting, yeah, and those things are all for the Switch. I mean, those
Yeah.
things are all sit in the same universe, the same world, whatever, and you can definitely still like you can see in between each one of those games, and you can go in between those games. So if you wanted to play Chrono Trigger for a little while, like on there, if they did it like that, you can go play that for a minute. Then you can go and play Chronocross for a little while. I mean, it's and the Switch would be a perfect place for it. I agree with you because if I could sit there and play that thing in bed, dude,
You're
that would
right.
be phenomenal. If I
Absolutely.
could play I mean that probably would have kept me playing more when I was a kid, so that I didn't have to keep the PlayStation all the time. Because you can watch TV and watch your wrestling, do whatever else, and do it at the same time, you know. So that's really cool. So,
Oh,
but yeah,
absolutely.
I would recommend the game to anybody. It is really good if you're an old fan, if you're a new fan. If you like turn-based,
Yeah.
with really good stories and characters that you're going to care about, and I mean, I couldn't name all 45 characters right now, but I cannot tell you one that I remember like not enjoying the story about because there's always at least like a little side story to what's going on with them, and all the characters kind of like the series Lost, they're all kind of connected in some way or another.
Right.
So it's like you
Right.
kind of have that too. So you're trying to figure that out. Kind of a almost a Final Fantasy 8 feeling to it. You know how they were all kind of connected on that one.
Yeah.
On Final
Yeah.
Fantasy, it's kind of some of the main characters on this are like that, but all of the side characters, there's connections between them as well. It's all so really good. I even preparing for this because I didn't have time to play the whole like freaking 100 hours or whatever it would
Right.
have took me
Right.
to play the whole game right now. But I watched some stuff on YouTube just to kind of get the story again and like make sure I could remember most of the stuff that because it was like a top 15 RPG, like all time right now. I think they said,
Oh wow.
and for me, it definitely is like a top like 3 to 5, like somewhere in there. I mean, I'm definitely a big fan of Final Fantasy. I really like Dragon's Quest too,
Oh
are really
right.
good. The Dragon's Quest games, which is another one that like those are all in the same universe
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
different.
A
Like
very
yeah, they're different.
I've seen a very confusing timeline breakdown for Dragon Quest, but that's going to be a
Mm,
video for a different day because yeah, I'll throw it out now. Dragon Quest will be coming, and it's a franchise I'm not super familiar with, so be I might be calling you back in if you're a big fan of that.
Uh, Dude, I'll come back anytime you want me to. I mean, like I love doing this. We can get our schedules together. I know that's kind of tough for both of us because our
Right.
schedules are kind of. I mean, like we basically just see and talk to each other at the comic shop every Wednesday. But but yeah, I'll come back on anytime, man. We can get it worked out. I'm a big fan of all that stuff. Dragon's Quest. I
Okay.
mean, I'd like to do sometime too if you want to do Trials of Mana because that's phenomenal games too. So
I do own that. And I need to play it, but all right, we're running
I
low.
need to play it more.
Right. Well, we're running low on some time, so we're going to have to call it for today. Luke, I want to thank you very much for joining me in this video and giving the listeners a true breakdown of the game, man. Like I said,
Well, thank you for having me, sir.
oh, absolutely. And like I said, I want to go through a lot of these old RPGs, and I know I haven't played them. So yeah, y'all will probably be hearing Luke again. Real quick though, man, do you have anything you want to plug? Any social media, any outlet for your band or anything?
Yeah, my band's name's 3 Miles from Providence. We're currently working on an album right now, but you can even go to Spotify or like Apple Music or something like that, and we have a single that we released a couple of years ago that's going to be on the album. And it is called Ashes. So you can ask your Alexa or your Siri or whatever else to play Ashes by 3 Miles from Providence and get us some plays, and we'd appreciate that.
Yeah. Hell yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. Well, stay tuned next week for more good video game content, and we'll catch y'all later.